Hello everybody, hope you're doing well today and welcome back to the channel. Now with the current wave of Studio Series figures finding its way into the hands of most collectors and reviewers, and with the next wave being extremely heavily rumored, I thought now would be the best time to give you all my top 13. Yes, I know top 13 have an oddball number to start a list with, but I started writing names down, couldn't stop, and here you are now. So yes, top 13 list of Studio Series figures that I want to see before the line ends. But before we dive into that, I want to give two major shout outs to Null Productions. Thank you so much for being the first ever person to comment on my channel. I really do appreciate it. And you guys, I would love to engage with y'all more. If y'all ever want to stop by in the comment section and say hi, please feel free to do that. I would love to say hi and chat with you on the comment section. But yes, thank you Null Productions and Jaden for two main reasons. Number one, for being the second ever person to comment on my videos, and number two, for being so incredibly kind and supportive as to make a video on his own channel titled Support Just a Random Reviewer. Jaden, if I could find the proper words to say thank you and how much this means to me, I would, but I can't, so I'll just say this. Thank you so incredibly much for being such a kind and thoughtful person. And just after this small little thing, it means so much to me. So thank you so much again. And with that being said, guys, let's move on with the video. So like I said before, this is my top 10, 13 Studio figures that I want to see before the line ends. Now, a few things to mention before we get into the list. These are not in any particular order of which one I want most, which one I want least. This is just in order of which movie they appeared in first. Like, let's say Dark of the Moon is first, then The Last Night, then Bumblebee movie, and so on and so forth. So that being said, let's get on with the video. So starting off our list is an honorable mention in the form of Dark of the Moon Q. Now, I think it's pretty likely that we're actually going to get this figure, just because Hasbro has done so many Dark of the Moon figures from Studio Series, and it's pretty much inevitable that we're going to get this guy, but it's nothing set in stone yet, so I still add to the list. It's just an honorable mention. Now, when we did see him in the original Dark of the Moon toy line, his toy was fairly accurate to what looked like in the movie, but I think with how much the design process has evolved over these last, oh my gosh, what is it? Nearly 9-10 years. Oh my gosh. I think they made such a better figure of Q. But yes, he has been honorably mentioned. Alright, but actually starting off the official list is Age of Extinction / The Last Night Optimus Prime. Now, this figure could be argued as inevitable, simply because Hasbro has done so many of the early movie figures that, eventually, just to get as much as they can out of this line, they're going to have to move on to these last two films, The Last Night and Age of Extinction. But I think that Hasbro could really make a shiny little penny off this figure, just because that premiere edition, while it wasn't perfect, definitely had some good elements to it that they could build off of and make it an almost completely new sculpt, give it a new shiny paint job, better accessories, and boom, got yourself a Voyager Class figure. But again, I think that this is something that Hasbro really should do, and I personally think that they really hope they do. Next up is the Voyager Class, The Last Night Hound. Now, this is the second case of Optimus, his original toy from the Last Night line, it was fine, but it definitely had a good mold, but it didn't have the painting to back it up. And I think that, again, with the new technology that Hasbro use to make toys these days, they can make such a better version of this figure. And out of Voyager Class, they could even do a leader class of this figure just to include all of his weapons and accessories. But I really think Hasbro can make a near perfect representation of Hound if they only took this idea and ran with it. Next up is actually a bit of a wild card. The original was The Last Night Voyager Class Barricade. Now, I know this guy, most people think that he shouldn't be Voyager Class, but he was a decently big guy in the movie. Like, he of course wasn't like as tall as Hound or Megatron, but he was a big boy in the movie, And, with the Voyager Class budget, Hasbro can make an amazing figure of this guy, because while his premium figure wasn't awful, unlike the others, it was still kind of bad. You can see that there was a lot of just this dull, almost tan plastic use on him, and had a huge backpack. And I think that's a combination of things, but in today's time, with the budget of a Voyager Class figure and the technology, Hasbro could definitely make a fantastic The Last Night barricade. Next is the Transformers Last Night Megatron. Now, I'm not going to say if I would like this to be a Voyager or a Leader Class figure, because I think Hasbro could definitely do both. If they want to do Voyager, I think they can make that work. But if they want to do Leader, they could definitely do some good stuff with that as well. Now, the thing about Megatron, he was a big guy in the movie. He was a pretty big guy with a huge jet mode and two main weapons, that being his sword and his fusion cannon. And while I think that the original Premier Edition figure was fine, it was definitely lacking articulation just because of his engineering. And again, I think in today's modern era, we could definitely avoid some of that limits. You can see here on the legs how the wings fold up. They could probably do something better with that. And if y'all remember on that figure, there was no wrist or waist rotation. I think they could definitely engineer that if they did go to the Leader Class figure. So again, I think that they could do either or with this figure, but I think it's definitely a figure that they should at some point try to tackle. Next up is the Last Night Crosshairs. Now, I know, this is the 5th Last Night figure in a row. This will be the last one, I promise. But just look at this design. Just take a good long look at this design. He's a trench coat. He's a pretty slender body type. And this somehow has to transform into a car. And that's why I give so much slack to the Premier Edition version, because it had all of this to try and do seamlessly. And while, again, that figure wasn't awful, I definitely think that it could be improved on. And even that figure in itself was just a slight remold/repaint of the AoE version. So I think what they could do is take the original figure mold, modify it heavily, repaint it with some nice shiny sparkly paint, and make a fantastic crosshairs. Now, this would be hard to engineer to have the trench coat work as well as it does in the movie, because obviously it's not going to make out of a very thin and flexible plastic, because that obviously won't work, but everything they could do something with it, and that's why I think that crosshairs would be a perfect addition to the Studio Series line. Alright, moving away from Michael Bay's neck of the woods, let's talk B-movie, shall we? I think that we should definitely, and probably all, gonna get a Studio Series B-movie Ironhide. Now, a couple factors lead me to believe that we're gonna be getting this guy. Number one, in case you aren't to know, there are heavy circulation rumors about the next couple waves of Studio Series figures, including a lot of B-movie figures, specifically Ratchet, Brawn, Soundwave, and Wheeljack. And if we're gonna get a Ratchet, then 9 out of 10 times we're gonna get an Ironhide, because those two are just repaints of each other more often than not. And I think if we're going to get a Ratchet, then it only makes sense for us to get an Ironhide as well. They could probably make this guy a Voyager. I think they should. He's definitely a big and bulky character. But again, probably going to get this guy, but I just want to put him on the list just because, nothing's certain. And if we're not going to get him, I still want to put him on the list. Alright, next up is the Deluxe Glass B-Movie RC. Now, I'm actually a huge RC fan. I love Transformers Prime, and I like them in G1. And based on, the brief segments that we saw her in the movie, she definitely does seem to be much more like her G1 counterpart. But I think his design is very, very cool, very unique. Again, much like all these designs, slightly stylized from the G1's counterparts, but still faithful to them. And I think that they could do a fantastic job with the RC from B-Movie. And given that the last RC we got from this line wasn't fantastic, I think it would be a great chance for them to redeem themselves and give us a better version of the character. And finally, closing up the B-Movie segment is a Leader Class Ultra Magnus. Now, I know it didn't appear at all in the movie, but I mean, come on, guys, come on. Look at this. You look me in the eye through the screen. Yes, you, and tell me that this guy does not look cool and that you don't want him as a toy. Yeah, you can't. He just looks that great. Look at him. He is big. He is huge. He is perfectly proportioned. And like all these B-movie designs, he is kind of stylized, but still perfectly faithful and respectful to the G1 counterpart. He just looks cool. That's the only reason I want him. That's it. Moving on. Now, the last figure I want to talk about is a 86 movie Voyager Class Blaster. Now, I'm actually very surprised that Hasbro hasn't already done this yet because, as we know, Blaster and Soundwave, they kind of twinning in a way. They have very similar body designs, and with that Netflix Soundwave that they made last year, they could have a near perfect mold for this guy. Make a few modifications, repaint him, and boom, brand new Blaster figure. Sell for $30, put on store shelves, and I promise you, you'll make a very shiny penny from that. And capping out our list is a bit of a wild card, but something I definitely think Hasbro could and should do. TFP figures from the movie Predacons Rising. Now, I know that this series has been over for a long time, and while still popular with fans, not enough to warrant a completely new toy line for it. That's where I disagree. In the last 2 years, been at least 3 official offerings from Hasbro for TFP and multiple third-party offerings. Those being the 2 Hasbro exclusives. One, the Hades Megatron, and 2, the VCon and Breakdown 2-pack, as well as the REDRC. And from the third-party market, APC Toys has taken the old figures, giving them new paint jobs, more accessories, and re-releasing them, and they've been killing it. I just think it's such a good idea for Hasbro, and I'll dive into this later in a later video. But I definitely think that Hasbro, after the War for Cybertron line ends, is going to be diving back in some of the old series like Animated, TFP, Armada, Unicron, all that old stuff, and kind of revitalizing it. But that's what I want, my personal theory. Like I said, I'll get into all that in a later video. But yeah, guys, that was it. That was my top 13 list of Studio Series videos I want to see before the line ends. So, this is definitely a very fun video to make, just to think about, all the possibilities for Studio Series figures. And I definitely want to hear what y'all think in the comments below above the video, and what kind of Studio Series figures you guys want to see before the line ends. That being said, thank you all so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye, guys. Have a good day.